to be a Texan last night. Fourth generation Texan, but when I spoke last night and looked over and saw all those Texas shirts out there, and yes, you should wear them again, because I loved it. It was a great evening. It's time to come together as a party. It's time to defeat Hillary Clinton in this election. As Tom mentioned, and by the way, he's doing an outstanding job as a chairman of the RPT. We have, Tom, more Republicans of any state delegation, and we hold more chairmanships of any other state as well. I think Lamar, and Lamar's the chairman as well, the most in the history of the Congress. So we're going to work on that leadership thing, but we are all part of leadership. We make decisions at the table, and as it should be. But I just want to comment a few things about last night. First of all, it was an honor to speak in a prime role, be asked by the campaign to do so. But, you know, we heard from the victims of illegal immigration and what this administration has done to facilitate that. And as I mentioned last night, we need to end sanctuary cities. And keep dangerous people out of this country. That's what I do day in and day out, working with the FBI, Homeland Security, and the intelligence community, is keeping bad guys and bad things outside the United States. But we can do a better job under a new administration. And then finally, once and for all, and we know that our nominee will do this, we need to secure that border and get it done. You know, and then we heard from the men who were there at Benghazi. And, you know, and to see the mother of her son was killed in Benghazi, and the disrespect that Hillary Clinton showed to her, to not even acknowledge her as immediate family, that shows you the type of person, you know, that she really is. And I've been tasked to be on the national security team moving forward, and I'm going to be talking about Hillary Clinton quite a bit. In fact, I think my role is going to be one of the attack dogs to make the case as a prosecutor I used to be against her. You know, they talk about leading behind has led us into danger. That's exactly what she has done. She was the architect of the failed foreign policy of the Obama administration. She is responsible for Benghazi and the death of our ambassador and 3 Americans. She was responsible for ISIS. Now, I know it's a strong statement to make, but let me make the case for it. She was only in Baghdad one day for 3 hours. You may not know this. To me, as a top diplomat, not to meet with the prime minister of a country that you know is not very stable, and we left stabilized, and then to withdraw our forces, not have a status of forces agreement, what happened was it imploded, and Al-Qaeda in Iraq turned into ISIS and reared its ugly head. I believe there's an indictment to be made, and you know what, if the FBI director wouldn't recommend indictment, we can make a political indictment against her going into this election. And, you know, I talked about last night, and I'll be talking about this a lot. I remember Reagan was the first president I had the opportunity, great honor to vote for. And he made the case, and this is what won the election for him, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? I think the question of today is, are you safer than you were 8 years ago? And resoundingly, everywhere I go when I talk about this, the answer is obviously no. Almost on a weekly basis, we're seeing a terrorist attack overseas, And unfortunately, we're seeing more and more in the homeland in the United States. And I don't have to go through the litany of cities where we've seen this. And now lately, we're seeing our police officers under attack by what I would argue are terrorists. You know, they say Black Lives Matter. The governor and Dan Patrick said every life matters. I'll give you this one. Cops' lives matter as well. And I had an African-American guy on the street just last night say that to me. Sir, thank you, because cops' lives matter, and they do. And they're the last line of defense protecting us. But we need a new commander-in-chief that will lead our military to greatness, restore the greatness of America. And as I said last night, the Islamist terrorists fired the first shot, but we will certainly, rest assured, fire the last. And that's my great honor. And I do think, one last point, because this administration won't call it what it is, the basic military principles, you have to define your enemy to defeat them. And I've been saying this for years. We can't put our head in the sand and call it whatever. The enemy is radical Islam, and we need to understand that to defeat it. And we need to say that. So let me, it's my honor to introduce the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, who is here today. I consider him to be a very good friend and colleague. Paul came in, he was a vice presidential candidate. He was the chairman of the Budget Committee. He was the chairman of the powerful Ways and Means Committee, which determines all the tax policies. Paul is actually very happy being a chairman of a very important policy committee. And then a funny thing happened on the way to the Speaker's office. Mr. Boehner left, and our conference basically drafted him. And it's very, you know, you used to see George Washington and others be drafted to run for president. You don't see that very often these days in Washington. People like power too much, I think. But Paul didn't ask for the job. He was drafted by our conference to serve in that position. Very proud of the work he's done to bring together all the factions within the Republican Party, which we all know exist. But he sits down and listens. He's a consensus builder to get good things done. He's been to Texas, I will say, 4 times in the very short time that he's been Speaker of the House. And one thing you may not know about him is when our delegation went to him and we said, you know, Speaker, we've had a ban on crude oil since really the Carter administration. And if we're going to lift the ban from Iran and the Iran deal, why in the world aren't we lifting the crude oil energy ban that hurts Texas? And Paul listened to us in our delegation, and Paul Ryan, the Speaker, got that done. We passed that bill, signed it into law, and it's going to be one of the greatest things for the Texas economy we've seen in a long time. So with that, let me just turn it over to the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, we don't like pies to be things in this country.
Let's say one more thing. He's from Wisconsin, so don't hold that against him. But he has put a better way forward agenda that he's going to talk about, and I'm proud to have been a part of that team. And Paul put me on the national security team, and thanks for your great work.
You bet, Mike. Thanks so much. Thanks, buddy.
Appreciate it.